Every day, police use CCTV to solve true crimes and missing person cases. Sometimes CCTV only takes investigators part of the way to solving a mystery though, and answers remain unknown. Number 5. When Chadnis disappeared, he was last seen on CCTV in his car in an area of Melbourne that didn't make sense to his friends and family. His disappearance uncovered a mystery that remained unsolved to this day. Tej was 21 years old in 2016. He was a university student studying health science at the nearby Deakin University while living home with his parents. His family believe his typical routine involved driving his 2005 VW Golf to a train station, then catching a train to class. He would come back around 4 p.m. But what they didn't know was that Tej's days were much more mysterious. April 27th was Tej's father's birthday. For his 60th birthday, the family had planned a special meal that had been on the calendar for months. Tej was apparently looking forward to the meal. He was very close to his family, and the celebration was very important to him. At 10 a.m. that morning, he told his family he was going to meet up with some friends in Melbourne city centre. He assured them that he would be back in time for the meal and asked his parents not to leave without him, as he wanted to travel with them to the restaurant. He left in his car and was never seen again. Tej was reported missing when he didn't return home that evening, and the investigation into his mysterious disappearance began. His family and friends noticed nothing out of the ordinary in recent weeks. His mother admitted he had been worried about his future and wasn't sure what he wanted to do with his life, but that didn't seem like something too unusual for a 21-year-old to be dealing with. She had advised him to take a break from university, and it would turn out that that wouldn't be necessary. Police discovered Tej hadn't been attending classes for more than a year. The discovery left Tej's parents with even more questions. There was nothing to show what he had been doing in the time his parents thought he was at university, and no explanation for why he had apparently given up on his classes. According to those that knew him, Tej showed no signs of mental health problems, and wasn't in any financial trouble. Tej's phone last pinged about an hour and a half after he left his parents' house. It had been in a rural suburb in northeast Melbourne, an area called Healesville. CCTV from an intersection showed Tej and his VW Golf driving through the area. None of his friends or family had any explanation for why he would have been in that area. It's not known if this is where Tej had been spending his days while he was supposedly at university, or if this was a one-off trip. Tej and his car have never been found. He left behind all of his belongings, and his bank account hasn't been touched, so it seems unlikely this was Tej running away to start a new life. There are so many unanswered questions in this mysterious case, and it's possible solving just one could unravel the entire case. Number 4. It's been more than 5 months since CCTV captured the last images of Catrin Maguire before she mysteriously disappeared in North Wales. Her family are still searching for an explanation for what happened to her, but so far have no answers. Catrin was a third university student studying health and social care. She had a lot of plans for the future, both long-term and short-term. For instance, she had recently gotten a passport and wanted to travel around Europe when she finished her course. On the day of her disappearance, she was supposed to be organizing some of those short-term plans for the future. She and her friend had recently moved into a new apartment together in Bangor, Wales, where she went to university. They hadn't signed the lease on the apartment yet though, and were supposed to be doing that on November 15th, 2021. Her friend arrived at the office where they were supposed to meet up, but Catrin never arrived. The friend assumed that she had gone back to Holyhead, where she lived with her family, which wasn't too unusual for her. But when she still hadn't gotten back in touch by the following evening, her friend contacted Catrin's family to make sure that she was okay. The family hadn't seen Catrin in weeks, and they realized something was terribly wrong. A police investigation found that Catrin had booked a return train ticket from Bangor to Holyhead on the morning of her disappearance. She arrived in Holyhead at about 11:30 a.m. and was seen on CCTV footage and doorbell cameras walking through the town. The last sighting of her was about 2 hours after she left the train station. She was spotted walking past a cafe at a nature reserve, heading towards a car park. After that, there's no sign of her and the trail goes cold. Countless searches, both on land and around the coast, have turned up no further clues. Catrin's family are certain that someone must know what happened to her, and they have appealed to tourists for information, as Holyhead is relatively popular among people wanting a short getaway. She is described as 5 foot 5 inches tall, with dark hair and a slim build. The last CCTV images before she mysteriously disappeared showed her wearing a black duffel coat and carrying a light-colored handbag. Anyone with information should contact North Wales Police. Number 3. The final known image of Renata Ancek was captured on CCTV at her daughter's school as she dropped off her daughter. Wearing a bright yellow coat, Renata is hard to miss in the photo that has been widely shared in local media. But what happened to Renata after she left the school gates remains a mystery. Renata was reported missing later that day on April 25, 2017, by her husband, Dr. Majid Mustafa. What was initially thought to be a relatively typical missing person case quickly took a turn for the strange when more secrets were uncovered. Renata and Mustafa had met in Renata's native home in Poland, where Mustafa had been studying. They married and had 2 daughters before moving to Hull in the UK, where Mustafa started a dentistry practice. From the outside, everything looked fine, but in the months before her disappearance, Mustafa noticed Renata acting strangely. Renata had begun wearing strange jewelry, which she said absorbed negative energy, and she began following a New Age religion. But there was more to her apparent strange behavior than just new beliefs. Mustafa believed Renata had been having an affair and became obsessed with getting proof of that. He tried to get an illegal substance from a friend, which would have knocked Renata out so that he could use her finger to open her phone and read her messages. But in the end, that plan didn't go through. But he did install secret cameras in their home and in Renata's car. He confirmed that she'd been having an affair with a man in Poland. On Mustafa's birthday, she had told him she wanted a divorce. It wasn't long after that Renata had gone missing. After discovering Mustafa's plans, police arrested him and his friend. He pleaded guilty to encouraging his friend to get the illegal substance, and was given a 12-month conditional discharge. Mustafa has always insisted he had nothing to do with Renata's disappearance. According to him, she had returned home after dropping their daughter off at school, and they had gotten into an argument. Renata then left the house again, and he didn't know where she went. 5 years later, the answer still remains a mystery. None of her family or friends have heard from her, and the last sighting remains to be the eerie CCTV image from the school. Number 2. In some mysterious missing person and true crime cases, CCTV can only add to the frustrations of family members looking for answers. For the family of Tony High, it gave them somewhat of a timeline to the last moments before he vanished. Different clips also gave them a number of leads for police to follow up on. But when police didn't take the missing person case seriously, CCTV was deleted and the case has since gone cold. Tony was 50 years old when he vanished in February of 2018 from near his home in Anglesey. Tony lived alone, though his mother and stepfather's home wasn't far from his apartment. He worked as a window cleaner, and his main mode of transportation was a push bike that his family described as his prized possession. On February 23rd, he went with his mother to go shopping in preparation for a visit from his teenage son, who lived with his ex-wife. It was only later that Tony learned his son was unwell, so he wouldn't be visiting that weekend. After his mother dropped him home, Tony went out on his bike. CCTV then showed him in an argument with a man police believed was an associate of his. After that, he went to the dentist to have his teeth whitened, made another appointment for September, and withdrew some cash. His family believed police tried to imply that Tony had been buying illegal substances from the man that he argued with, even though there's no evidence that Tony used substances. Later that evening, on 3 separate occasions, Tony was seen going to a housing estate on the other side of the city from his apartment. His family had no idea what he was doing there, but believed the answer as to what happened to him might lie in the estate. Tony was last seen on CCTV at about 9:40 p.m., walking with his bike not far from his apartment. CCTV closer to his home didn't turn up Tony making the final stage of the journey, but it did spot two men lingering near the block of apartments. Neighbors also reported hearing someone calling Tony's name. It wouldn't be until 2 days later that Tony's family realized he was missing. Nobody had been able to get in touch with him since the night that he disappeared. They went to his flat to see if something had happened, but what they found gave them chills. The lock to the front door of the building Tony lived in was broken, and his bike was in the communal hallway. His family say that he would never have left his bike there. Given it was his main mode of transportation, Tony went to great lengths to make sure that it wasn't stolen, and usually kept it in his flat. When his family went up to the flat, they found the door open. At first glance, nothing looked out of the ordinary, but it seemed like the drawers had been rummaged through, and Tony's tablet and its charger were missing. Of course, Tony was also nowhere to be found. Police initially believed that Tony had taken his own life, and investigating the case was a low priority. By the time his family had managed to convince police to take it more seriously, much of the evidence had already disappeared. Even now, his family have been frustrated by the lack of progress from police, and believe someone in the community knows what happened to Tony. Anyone with information about Tony's disappearance can contact Crime Stoppers at 800-555-111. Number 1. Investigators have described the disappearance of Michael Martin as being as if he had dropped off the face of the earth. The 25-year-old man vanished in 2016. Police believe the CCTV that captured the last known moments of Michael may be part of a bigger true crime story. Michael disappeared in the early hours of August 7th. The night before, he and an associate had been seen in various parts of Bolton City Center. The friend was believed to be part of a criminal organization that focused on high-value robberies and selling illegal substances. Investigators also think they met up with a number of other criminals that night, and Michael might have come into possession of several $1,000s. What exactly happened that night is unclear, but at around 7 a.m. the following morning, Michael and his friend were seen by witnesses in the nearby town of Kearsley. They had been in Michael's car, a black Ford Focus, when it abruptly stopped in the middle of the street. Witnesses watched them get out of the car and continue arguing. The car key had broken off in the ignition, and the pair had to jumpstart the car. Michael's friend drove the car to a nearby petrol station, and Michael followed behind on foot. It was at this petrol station that the final CCTV images of Michael were recorded. While his friend was in the store looking for something that might help fix the car, Michael entered and seemed to continue the argument. He wanted to leave right away. When the friend wouldn't go with him, Michael went back outside, opened the doors to his car, then ran off on foot. He was last seen crossing the main road and disappearing. Michael's friend eventually returned to the car and drove off. It was found abandoned later on. Michael's family reported him missing when they couldn't get in contact with him. Michael lived alone but would call his father every day. He knew the number by heart, so even if he lost his phone, he could have gotten in contact. Michael's friend was arrested as part of the investigation, but was later released. What happened to Michael remains a mystery. It's not known what happened to the money he was believed to have collected the night before, or why he was arguing with his friend. Police and Michael's family fear that he may no longer be alive, but they know that someone knows what happened to him. Anyone who could help solve this strange case can contact Greater Manchester Police at 0161 856 8797 or contact Crime Stoppers. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.